Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Fat Friend chat. Today we have Jay, and I'm so excited to welcome you into our space. But before, I want us to have a little grounding breathing moment. So let's find a comfortable spot. You can turn your camera off if that feels more comfortable, or keep it on, it doesn't matter. And so we're going to just close our eyes and rock the soles of your feet back and forth, just kind of feeling your whole foot on the ground. And then we're going to breathe, lifting our shoulders to our ears, inhaling up, exhale, letting them drop. And again. One more time. And today we are landing in these bodies with grace and gentleness, and knowing that whatever they're going through is probably due to external factors and not anything we've done, which I've found lately I've really had to talk myself out of. So just reminding ourselves that bodies hurt sometimes and bodies change and they cause grief and they feel weird, and that doesn't make them bad. It just makes them human bodies. And they're also awesome and do all these great things for us. So give your body, if you want to touch your belly and your heart, just give your body a little contact. Maybe give it a little love, and just remind it that it's doing what bodies do. And we'll breathe right into that and exhale. And when you're ready, you can gently start to open your eyes, come into the space.
You don't know my body, don't tell me how it works now. I will not say sorry for how I make it work out. No, I let myself, all my curves run. Fat self-care, only movement in my world now.
Jay and I have met, we've chatted a lot virtually, and we met at Knockout last year. I think that was the first time IRL, right?
Yeah, that was the first time we've met in real life. Yeah.
Wild. Um, so we were like, okay, we gotta get you to come in for Fat Self-Care. Will you just tell us about you and the work that you do and who you are?
Yeah. So I'm really excited to be here. I absolutely love what you do, Anna, and I'm just really honored to get to chat with everyone. My name's Jae'lynn. I go by Jay. On social media, you've maybe seen me as J Bay. So that's my brand where I create a lot of fat rights content, fat travel content, a lot of fat resources I try to provide, and things like that. And I've been doing this work as a creator since 2019, but I really feel like I've, kind of found my, space. And that really started last year when I launched a petition. Now I'm on the board of NAFA. I do a lot for fat community. And I have, big dreams for us and just want us to be treated the way that we deserve and have access to the things we deserve to have access to. And I'm really passionate about, helping fat people. I've been fat, plus size, whatever you like to call it, my whole life. And I've now been in a super fat body for several years, which has, opened my eyes to a lot of different things around accessibility and such. So, yeah.
So happy you're here. Thank you. Um, I just saw that you were the joining NAFA as part of their, what is your role there? Or what, tell us more about that.
Yeah, so I joined the board of directors, so I will be kind of in a general role for the first few months. Then I will probably be on a committee helping in different areas. And so as a general board member, so far we've had a board meeting, and I've connected with Tigress last year when I launched my, campaign, my petition, body equality in travel. And I really I'm just really passionate about this work. I think I found my passion for activism and advocating and things like that. And that kind of happened later for me. I think in the very early stages of, being a creator, I hadn't really found that passion yet. I haven't found my place in like the fat lib space. But I feel like I've come more into that role. And so joining NAFA is something that I really wanted to do since I kind of found out what they're all about. And, for those who might not be familiar, it's the National Association to Advance Fat Acceptance. And they do just really great work, and they've been doing this work for, 5 decades now. So I'm just really honored to be a part of it. And I can't wait to kind of find my way and like see what committees I end up on and things like that.
I love that. Yeah, we had Tigress on last year uh for one of these chats, and I love Tigress so much. I love the way that she cares for our community, and I was so happy to see that announcement. I was like, "Oh, I love that," because I think something I notice is when brands or organizations want things to change for fat people, but they don't put fat people in positions of power and of influence and things like that. And I think that is like the root of what's needed is the lived experience mixed with the sort of other experiences that we bring. So excited you're doing that. Okay, let's dig into the petition. I
Yeah.
know we shared it on Fat Self Care. So tell us about what made you want to start that? I mean, I think we know, but we would love to hear from your experience. And then how it's going, like an update or where it's at.
Yeah, so I started the petition in April of 2023. And basically, I've been creating plus size travel content, fat travel content, for probably a few years now. And I've tried to create resources and kind of guide people, and give advice, anytime someone comes into my DMs and they're asking advice on like what airlines they're flying on, or they just have questions about a lot of the time if they're going to fit, like if they're going to feel comfortable. And that was something that I started struggling with was I've been in a fat body my whole life, but I was a smaller fat for a good majority, and I gained some weight after I got sick, and I now live in a super fat body. And not only am I super fat, but I also live with chronic illness and disabilities, and things of that nature. And I personally wasn't allowed to travel for about a year because I was homebound, after being diagnosed with a lung disease. And so for a long time I couldn't travel. And so then when I wanted to and I was able to finally start traveling again, there just wasn't many resources for someone my size. There was some plus size travel resources, but when it comes to being a super fat and flying, and then also like navigating mobility challenges or things like that, I just didn't see a lot of representation, and I also didn't see a lot of resource or help. And so I started really doing a lot of research because I needed to help myself. And so I was finding out things in different, what's plus size friendly, what, is suited for fat people, how to make your, you know, like life more comfortable when you're traveling as a fat person. And so, you know, I wanted to share that because I was taking so much in, like finding out like how to navigate using Seat Guru or things like that. And I wanted to share that information. And I made my first plus size travel video, and it went viral, and it quickly gained a lot of attention. And there were a lot of comments in there that really opened my eyes to the need for this type of content. And also it came with negative comments that really showed me how we need to change perceptions of fat and, advocate for people. And so that's when I really got passionate about making this type of content and being that resource, and showing that, I'm a size 6X. And so, if I can do it, I'm trying to like inspire that confidence in people that are my size or, have those concerns. And a lot of people come to me in my DMs asking me, after maybe like being diagnosed with something or gaining some weight, they're just wondering if they're going to be able to travel comfortably, and they want help. And they want to know what information I have for them. And so, I love giving that information out. I love helping and telling them exactly how to navigate things, but I really came to understand that we needed to do something even more. And especially for super fat travelers who need 2 seats when flying, right? And that's the experience that I now have, grown accustomed to. I need 2 seats when I fly now. And so I realized that I was providing a lot of great resources, but I wasn't able to really make any change. And that's when I wanted to take, initiative to do something more and try to change the problem. And so, I believe that all fat bodies should have access to as many seats on a plane as they need to travel comfortably. Everyone deserves that. And that is when I decided to start the petition. I wanted to advocate for super fat travelers, and the petition I believe is doing great. We have almost 40,000 signatures,
Amazing.
and yeah, so it's been really interesting, and I've learned so much too because I've really gotten to research different things, different airlines, provide info, connect and hear so many stories about people who've experienced challenges when flying because of living in a fat body and even a super fat body. And getting to just hear all the stories, and it has made it so apparent that we need to make a change. And customer size policies need to be a standard around all airlines, even just providing information. And so that's what the petition is all about, is advocating for people of size to be able to have an additional seat if they need to, and at the minimum have information and access to details that'll help them navigate travel more efficiently and more confidently.
I love that. I think that is so important. And like, I've even found just that there are accommodations that people are willing to make, and they don't realize or understand that people need to have ways to meet these challenges. And if it's not clear, people just won't participate. Like, I recently went to um a Broadway show at the Keller, and I loved because they had two types of uh larger seats. One was a bit smaller and had arms, and the other was like basically kind of like a love seat with arms. And so I was like, wow, I didn't realize this existed. I would have gone to more shows had I known that this was a thing. And I think the information is so important because the way that we feel, I mean, the way in which our society makes us feel shame around our bodies makes it even harder to take the step to like ask the question or figure it out. It's like we're already stressed traveling, we're already having to navigate being perceived by people, potentially like needing an escort or support to get to the gate. It's like we don't then need to be like, oh, now I don't fit. Like, it's not Disneyland and a ride, right? I'm not gonna get on the thing and not, like, it's not that kind of situation. So I think that your petition is super important. I think 40,000 signatures is amazing. What's your goal?
Yeah, I remember when I started this, I was like, if I get like 3 signatures, I will be so stoked just to start a conversation and like really just address the bigger systemic issue that, we're not accommodated in this world. Fat people are not, accommodated properly, in my opinion. And I think that's just apparent. And so I have truly been like blown away about how many signatures, how many people have connected with me and shared their story, and things like that, and been so willing to like talk about this because they want it to change. So honestly, like the sky's the limit. I would love to see it get 100,000 signatures. I would love to see it get 1 million signatures. And honestly, the real end goal is making an actual change and making it a requirement for information to be accessible to fat people when they're traveling, because a huge part that you'll hear from so many advocates for fat travel is that we have to do a lot of research, right? We have to find so many things out. We have to figure things out on our own. And if this information is not even accessible to anyone, then that's a huge problem. And that's where then we're not even having a fair advantage in just, living our daily lives. And people have to travel as necessity sometimes. And I've heard so much that it's like a luxury or that it's not, a right and things like that. But we don't think about all the reasons we have to travel and the reasons like that we can't avoid. And even if it wasn't something we absolutely have to do, we deserve to be able to travel too, no matter our size. But yeah, I think the end goal is making real change and getting the airlines to provide information, and then honestly to model their customer size policy after Southwest Airlines. So I think when I see some real change made and it's easier for us to travel, that's when I'll feel like, the job is moving and making real progress and, things like that.
Yeah, and I think it's like, okay, if you think that if it's luxury, then it should be called luxury, not public transportation, which is what a airplane is. It's a
Exactly.
fancy Airbus. So I think that that is such a good thing. And I think the Southwest, and they've had their policy for a long time, which I think is it's cool to see people just starting to understand, but it makes me a little sad because I'm like, I hope this that you didn't know. I wish you had known sooner that there were some options, but I think it's creators like you, spaces like Fat Self Care that is really helping people understand like there are ways in which we can do this, and you don't have to make 3 times as much money, and you don't, there's all of these, I think, perceptions that folks have because we're sort of conditioned to believe that we are a burden, and we're
Yeah.
not. We are people and we deserve to sit. And it's not like when we have 2 seats, we're comfortable.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
that's the bare, and I'm super tall, so like for me, the 2 seats is amazing, but it's like I wish I could sit in the exit row, right? Because I'm 6'3" and it's so uncomfortable to be in the little part. But like, God forbid I wouldn't be able to support a plane, which is so I would. Everybody. We all could if we were in an emergency. But then I'm seeing like doors flying off a plane. So I'm like, we got bigger fish to fry, okay?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And like you said, like I think people, think when they hear 2 seats, they think that we're just like getting to stretch out and be so comfortable. And it's like, just because we need the room like to fly and be comfortable doesn't mean it's actually truly like a luxury. It doesn't mean it's an added benefit. Like we're taking up the space we need. And, it's not the most comfortable thing. And like I still have to make like I still need to bring a cushion to make sure I'm not, the metal's not digging into me with between the 2 seats. And there's so many things. And I think even having that information and like sharing that is so important. And so, yeah, the customer size policy has been around for like 3 decades now. And, some people still don't know about it. And so there are people that are, suffering because they don't know and they don't have information. And there's even talks that certain airlines are honoring a customer size policy. They just don't publicly say that they will provide you with seats or refunds or anything like that for your second seat. And so even just the information needs to be more consistent and more accessible and readily available because it's truly not. And, even with putting things on my website, I can only do so much. And so the more that we talk about it or the more that we say it needs to be a requirement for you to have this information available, the more that people will be able to actually fly comfortably. And you would be surprised how many people tell me they've not flown for 10 years and they don't plan on it because they had a bad experience. So
And
that is
people are
what,
so mean, like just
yeah.
the looks you get when people walk. I love it. And this is a luxury is I've had the opportunity a few times to fly first class, which I can fit in 1 seat. And it is tight. I will say they're not perfect, but the looks when I'm in first class is next level. I'm like, I'm looking back because I'm like, don't fuck with me. But it is so it's like even with the Southwest, you put your little reserve ticket and people are like there's just an attitude that I like that we being fat people, we are taking something away from people when I think that fat people traveling are the most aware of their physical space and trying to be as contained as possible, almost to a fault, right? Like as you were saying, when you sit in 2 seats, there's a metal rod going down the middle of the 2 seats. Do you have a tool for that?
Do I?
Yeah.
I swear by these cushion lab cushions that you can put down, like that are for like office chairs, but I like swear by that because let me tell you that metal thing can really, really make a really bad difference. Like I've had, flights where I've been almost in tears because of how uncomfortable I was with my 2 seats. So that's also, I think, the bigger issue too, is like the configuration and the seat size also needs to change, in my opinion.
Totally.
So
Or
yeah.
they need something like, if you're gonna have a stapled extender, then you need a like foam T thing to put. Okay, I would love if you after this call share that seat cushion with me because I want to share that too. Because I think my dog's excited. Everybody's excited. Because I've seen those, but I'm like, are they big enough for my butt? This is great news.
Yeah, they provide at least some added comfort, and like I have to have something down when I'm sitting down. I just find that like gives me the most peace of mind.
Yeah, okay, I
Yeah.
love that. All right, so as an expert traveler, what is your favorite way to travel? Where maybe it's like your favorite trip you've ever been on, or like, I don't know, where have you had the most success? And you'd be like, if someone is just starting to travel again, or like they're like, for the first time I'm gonna take a vacation, like what do you suggest they do for their first trip?
Yeah, honestly, I love personally my favorite place to visit is Hawaii just because of the culture, like the, vibe, the it's very accessible. They have so many different options of accessibility when it comes to their beaches and they have some of the shortest beaches. So like if you have to walk in the sand, there's not as much to actually get into the water. Some of them have Moby mats, which is really awesome. So wheelchair mats, things like that for accessibility. And I just feel like because it's more developed, there's a lot more resource for accessibility wise. So that's something I really focus on. But honestly, another great place if you're in the States is Las Vegas. And you would probably think not really because of all the walking. But they have a lot of mobility scooters, they have more accessibility, elevators, ramps, things like that. And yeah, I would say a lot of research is gonna make you feel better. My website can be a resource, I believe, because I have some stuff on there just to help you plan your event, like plan your trip, plan everything and before you go and know before you go so you feel confident. Um, yeah, I love flying, but I also love train travel, which is also kind of surprising, but I find that trains give me a little bit more accessibility in terms of like security. I don't have as many like issues when I'm going, they have a lot more relaxed system than, airports and such.
Okay, have you ever done a cruise?
Yes, I also love cruise travel. It can be a lot of walking when you're getting like in the ports and stuff like that to get to like, a taxi or things like that.
Okay.
But I love cruise travel as well, and it's a great way to see many different destinations while also like maintaining like like a really that like good vibe that you get when you like sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought. But like the vibe that you can see a lot and you don't have to plan too much ahead. So it's kind of planned in. And there's a lot of excursions you can do, but those are something I also recommend to check weight capacities and things like that.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. And I will say with Hawaii, I grew up there. I love it. I think it's an amazing place. Sometimes they ask us not to go, especially when resources are low. So it's like be very specific and in planning your trip and make sure that like it's a good time to be there. But I think that there is a very welcoming community and that like I think Hawaiian culture is beautiful and amazing. And it's all about care and consideration. So if you do go there, A, make sure it's a good, safe time to go there where they're not like having a lack of resources for the indigenous people and the people that live there. And B, being super respectful, not taking anything home with you, like rocks or coral or anything like that, and just like really respecting the land. I think
Yeah.
those are really important. But there is something beautiful to the fact that they have created this accessible way in which wheelchair users and folks who don't normally get access to the ocean will have that. So I just have to say that as somebody who loves that place so much and wants to protect it.
Yeah.
Um, what do you feel is your top three, maybe like tips or three things that when you travel you always have that you found like support or give you ease, like kind of like the cushion, but you need to give three new ones.
So for me, I always let's think. That's a really hard one because there's so many things that I love to recommend. But for me,
Or five.
um
You could do five if you're like three is not enough.
so I always like to bring a portable fan wherever I go, but when I'm traveling, it's super important because with the walking and stuff, you can get really overheated. So for me, that's really important. I think also as plus size travelers, fat travelers, compression socks in any form of travel, just because the extended sitting, and that's something I really try and advocate for is just making sure you keep your blood circulating when you're traveling because there's like deep vein thrombosis and things like that I talk about on my website, DVT, that can happen when you're traveling and not getting a lot of movement in. So compression socks is huge, especially if you're in car, plane, train, honestly, anywhere. Um, and then for me as well, I always like to bring the cushion for sure. The travel cushion helps me everywhere I go. And yeah, was that three? I think that was.
Yeah, that was three.
Yeah.
Um, and you said I love that. So you said a fan, travel cushion. What was the middle one?
Compression socks.
Okay, do you have a brand you like? Because I've been trying, I'm really excited to see there's more super fat options coming out. What is your go-to compression sock?
So I have those on my Amazon storefront, and in the name, it's like, I believe they go up to a 7X, maybe an 8X. And in the name is like copper, the word copper. So I can totally send you the link for those as well. That's like one of my favorite brands because they offer such a wide range of sizes. But I'm seeing a ton, I've seen like three new compression sock brands for like super fat individuals recently. And I've even seen these like compression wraps. I believe they're like compression wraps more for traveling though. And I've really wanted to try out those, and I've seen that they're available in like up to a 7X2, I believe. So yeah.
I just got because I saw Jordan in an ad and I was like, I'm trying them. But there's
Yeah.
like a compression sock that goes up to the knee, and then there's one that's like a tube, so it's not a full sock, like it goes over your foot and it's kind of open, but it goes a little past the knee. So I'll share my experience with those with you later
Yeah.
so know if they'd be good. But I'm on the hunt for like the best.
The best one.
And so far I've not found the best, but I'm gonna try the ones in your store now.
Yeah, definitely try those ones. But I think I've even seen some go up to a 10X now, but I can't remember. Like, I take screenshots and then I never remember to like
Right.
go look it up after. But yeah, I've seen some that are like really getting into the extended sizes, which I love to see. So
Okay, we love that.
yeah.
Well, okay, so before I open it up for everybody, if somebody wanted to find your website, where can they find you?
Yeah, so you can go to jbayproductions.com. You can find me on TikTok at jbayofficial and YouTube at jbayofficial. And then if you want to just find me on Instagram, that's jbayproductions. So those are my two usernames, is jbayofficial and jbayproductions.
Okay, perf. All right, well, I'm gonna open it up to the group. Um, if you have any questions for Jay or things you're trying to navigate with travel, would love to hear it. Otherwise, I'll ask more questions. I have more questions, so whatever y'all need. Do we have any? Okay, great. I will ask another question.
Yeah.
Where's your least favorite place to travel?
Oh, that is a hard one. I wish I could say that I love Seattle, but it's very hilly. So anytime there's a lot of hills, it's a little bit hard to navigate, especially being a wheelchair user. And that's of course more local to us. I want to see, I really loved traveling in Canada. I found some really accessible and just really beautiful places there. Um, I'm trying to think of the worst place I've heard of. There's some that are like on the like do not go there list. Yeah, I've seen a lot of plus size trips to Bali lately, but I've heard pretty rough things about Bali, and the people there sometimes cannot be so kind to fat people. So yeah.
I've been to Bali. I think the people are lovely. I didn't have any trouble.
Okay.
I did notice that everything is a little bit smaller and the beds, listen, these beds are made of stone. They are so hard and so uncomfortable that that is probably why I may never go unless you're staying at a very expensive place. Like the affordable way to travel around Bali is they're beautiful accommodations. They're amazing gardens. The doors are ornate and you go in and it's fine. It's clean. It's great. The bed is like stone. Um, so that was my worst part of Bali, but the people were amazing. It's almost like I will say they were very amazed by me. So like, but I didn't take it as like they were like they wanted to take pictures with me because I was something so different because I'm really tall, I'm really big. So it was like, but it did not feel like a joke. It was like, oh my God, I have to take a photo with you, which for me is fun. I'm like, okay, yeah. I mean, you're one of the smallest men I've ever seen in my life too. Let's do this. You know what I mean? So I found that to be, but I think the way to make some of those places that have a more affordable um accommodation is to pay a little bit more and stay in the that's the thing that sort of bothers me is to travel more accessibly, you kind of have to travel more touristy because that is they're making the spaces for all kinds of people because they want to invite, the whole family and some. Whereas if it's more authentic and the culture of the people is, smaller or like in Mexico, I love Mexico, but I found it to be quite uncomfortable for a super tall, fat person. And but then if I was to go more to like that was in Mexico City, but if I was to go more to the resorts and like the all-inclusive, I think I would fit a little or feel a little bit more comfortable, but wasn't so interested in that it kind of is like sometimes you have to choose between comfort and the experience, but I know for me, if I can't sleep and I can't do some of these like important functioning things, especially with someone with so much chronic pain and stuff going on, it's really hard to even have a nice trip. So I've learned I will opt often for the more clearly accessible option, knowing it's probably not the coolest, most like authentic thing because they've made it Americanized, which is what it is, but I like that I can not, I'm not going to break a bed or have a rock hard thing that I have to sleep on. So,
Yeah. I would also say Puerto Rico. I love, the culture and the vibe there, but a lot of their buildings are older, so they don't have elevators. So when we got there, we had to walk up like 5 sets of stairs. And so accessibility is not, the best there, but I absolutely love everything else about it. Yeah, so that's kind of been my experience there. Where's the worst place you think you've been accessibility wise, or like even just like the vibe?
mm, honestly, I've had some terrible Oregon Coast experiences where I like broke the bed or like just sometimes if it's I think my issue is more when I go to an Airbnb and they don't have like quality furniture. Um, internationally, I even Bali, even though it was kind of tough sometimes, I loved it so much. It was so beautiful and interesting that I'd still do it. I think if I had done some of that traveling now, I would have much stronger opinions about it, but I was a little younger, a little less chronically ill. Um, yeah, I think the coast of Oregon have had my worst recent trips where I'm just like, what is this bed? Why am I breaking it? I can't like
Yeah.
I'm one person on a big bed. Like, it doesn't add up.
Yeah, my partner and I, when we first got there, we like got comfy on the bed and it broke with it, like, and that was in Lincoln City. So I totally understand. Like, it's the Oregon coast is a little rough too.
Um, what, where do you want to go next?
Oh, I have so many on the bucket list that I really want to go to. We're maybe going to Playa del Carmen, so I'm really excited to go see everything there for a travel conference.
Amazing.
And I think also my really big dream one is the Maldives. I would love to go, but the flight is so long. So, with not being able to use the restroom on flights and going for a flight like that's that long is kind of scary. So,
Yeah, and that
yeah.
when I went to that's the same with Bali, like it's such a long flight. I will say if you can fly what was it? Dubai Air? No, it was something like what was it? I've just it was a it's a Middle Eastern flight company, I think, but
Is it
no,
Emirates?
no, it wasn't Emirates. I thought it was Emirates. I think it was Singapore Air.
Oh,
They
okay.
have really like their seats are a little bigger for the regular seats, not even for the fancier seats, and their food is really good. I was like, "Oh, this is nice." And I fit in their bathroom a little bit better. I
Okay.
was like that's what I found is the longer the flight, they do have bigger
Yeah.
airplanes where they kind of have to have a little bit more space, but that flight almost ended me because it was so long. I couldn't poop. It was just a lot. I don't think I would fly that far unless it was first. But then who can afford that?
Yeah, right. Exactly. I'm like, some of the flights I've seen upwards of like $20,000, so for business class, it's like, okay. And then you have that times two. So, or if you need a third seat too. So it's like wild.
$20,000?
$20,000. Yeah.
Absolutely not. Man, but I think I've heard recently of people say that Vegas is pretty accessible. I think that's interesting. Have you been to like a show there? Are there seats in the shows accessible?
Honestly, that's where it gets a little iffy. I'm not
Okay.
going to lie with that. I experienced that in a lot of the theaters that I've gone in, and but I do know that a lot of people are advocating for the dimensions of seats to be put on the websites now, and it's kind of making that like a new requirement. And I think with that, I think it'll be a lot easier to figure it out. And just I like knowing before I go, and also I do have my chair a lot of the time, my wheelchair, which is like obviously built for me. And so that kind of, when I can't sit in the
That's
chair
true.
comfortably, that's kind of like the alternative for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's so great to know that you're out here doing this because I think I think just, your work in combination with other folks has shown where the gaping holes in travel are. And I think we can't fix things or change them until we see them really clearly. So I really appreciate all that you do.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
right now, a huge thing is that I'm working towards for the petition is speaking with senatorial teams to really make it apparent, in that we need a policy that's nationwide and that's mandatory to really accommodate, people of size.
I love that. I think that's so important. So, do you lead trips or things like that? Or is that
Yeah, so that's actually something that I'm launching, which I'll give like a little sneak peek into. But I will be leading trips that are for super fat people specifically. So our goal is to make sure that we can accommodate people upwards of 600 pounds plus. And so we're really building something that's really going to be strong with trips that are accessible, truly accessible for super fats and people of all sizes. So I'm really excited to be launching some of our first trips soon.
That's amazing. Yes, please keep us posted. I love that. Because I just started seeing really cool stuff coming out. Canoa Green is doing all these the co-adventure stuff, and I love it because I've talked to her a lot about what she's doing, and she's like, you got to work with the hotels and work with all these people to like really make them accessible. And hers are more geared towards adventure, so there's like a level that what you're getting into in that respect.
Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything for super fat travelers.
Yeah, so I'm really excited for that. I think it's gonna be, I hope that other people kind of follow suit too, and like we just know exactly what we need. And so, but there is a lot of planning that goes into it and a lot of coordination to make sure it's something really accessible because I partnered a few years ago with a company that does like group trips. But sadly, like it wasn't really truly accessible, so and especially for someone super fat that uses a mobility aid or anything like that. And so these trips are gonna be, specifically built for individuals with mobility challenges, individuals that are super fat, infinite fat, and things like that.
That's so important. Yeah, I was trying to do a Greece trip in 2021. Like I was trying to plan it then, and the company was like, I don't think we can make this how you need it to be. And I appreciated that they told me that because getting to Greece is a feat. And I think like the amount that people would have to pay to make it comfortable, to not be comfortable would just be next level. So I
Yeah.
am so excited that you're doing this. Keep me in the loop. I want to go to one of those trips.
Yes, I would love that. I would love to have you there. That would be literally amazing. I know the vibe would be perfect. So,
So
yeah.
fun. Okay, well, we're gonna look out for that.
Yeah.
Plus, we're going on a trip. Great, great, great. It's planned. We decided.
Exactly.
Um, okay, is there any final wisdom you want to share with us before we head out for the night? Got any things, travel, I don't know, mantras or anything? What do you do when you're about to gear up to go? Do you say anything to yourself?
Oh, I definitely tell myself that I deserve to have a great experience. There might be bumps in the road. It might look a little different, but in the end, it's going to be worth it. In the end, you'll remember all of the really good and fun parts. And, the little bumps will also leave an impact, but what you're going to get out of the experience and just letting yourself be free and feel and deserve, like you deserve all the great feels. You deserve to have a great trip. And I always like to remind myself of that and do a lot of check-ins with myself when I'm traveling.
I love that. I think that's really great advice for anybody in any size, but I think especially for fat travelers, like I deserve a good trip. I deserve to be comfortable on this flight. I deserve the seats that I need. Like that is absolutely true.
Yeah, take up space because you deserve it. And a lot of the time we're made to feel like we have to shrink ourselves, and that is not the case. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us. We will have this replay on YouTube soonish, whenever I can get my act together. Um, but I appreciate you, and you know where to find us if you need us, and you're welcome anytime here in our club.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Bye, everybody.
You don't know my body, don't tell me how it works now. I will not say sorry for how I make it work out. No, I love myself.